Pointers on that. Okay, welcome everyone to the North Alabama Agriplex Lunch and Learn. It ended up today we were still doing Zoom, and it ended up being a good day to do Zoom because there's some bad weather going around. We hope everybody is in a safe place and that everybody stays safe this evening. So my name is Rachel Dawsey. I'm the director with the North Alabama Agriplex. The Lunch and Learn is a series we've been doing for a couple years now, and it's just a free, don't have to register, 12 o'clock program where you bring your lunch. And so please feel free to eat today as we're going. Next month, we will be back in person at the pavilion at the Agriplex. So we'll be meeting outdoors. That'll be Wednesday, April 21st, and we will be doing a celebration of Earth Day. We're excited to have with us Dr. Bill Deutsch, who's one of the co-founders of Alabama Water Watch, and he will be talking about his book, Rivers of Alabama. So I think it'll be a really good talk. He was there at one of the first Earth Day celebrations in 1970, and so we will enjoy hearing from him about Earth Day and also about all of the rich resources of rivers in Alabama. Also, Rhonda, who is our guest today with us, teaching us about pruning, I just wanted to mention that she will be back with us at the Agriplex in person. Hopefully at that time we'll be inside, no mask and everything, on October the 5th. And so it's a rain barrel program where it's actually a make and take on rain barrels. And so we've got great weather for rain barrels in Alabama. So make sure that if you're interested in that, you look at our website on agriplex.org. It's got all the registration links. Right now, we're just registering through May. And then April the 1st, we'll start registering for our summer programs and summer camps. And then in August, we'll go ahead and open registration for the rest of the fall. But all that's on our website at agriplex.org. And there's a place you can sign up for our e-newsletter as well if you're interested in that. Okay, so as Rhonda is talking today, if y'all have questions, if you want to put them in the chat box, we'll make sure that Rhonda gets a chance to answer those questions for us. So we're glad you're here. And I've enjoyed getting to work with Rhonda Britton over the past year. She's been a very willing participant in coming to teach us at the Agriplex. So we've done mushroom logs, inoculated shiitake mushroom logs. And then we've also done rain barrels a bunch of times with Rhonda. So she's an expert in many different subjects. So we're glad to have you here, Rhonda. So I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very much. And it is an honor to be speaking to all of you today. And with the weather we had before yesterday and the day before, the weather's been just, everybody's itching to get out and do some planting and get their gardens ready and get their yards in shape. So it's been a fun time. So a lot of us have that on our mind. Today is an unfortunate day that we've got to really be weather aware. So please, if you have to go out because of something coming in, we understand, and hopefully we'll be fine. And I'm hoping the weathermen or the weather people are really wrong this time. So anyway, but I'm going to share my screen. And what I'm going to do is after I talk, we're going to go with I'm going to do a little show and tell. I'm going to show you my tools that I have in my bag, and they're a lot of fun to use. And I'm going to turn my video off, if that's okay, real quick, so that I can my screen will be a little bit better. So okay, I think we're ready. Let's see, from the beginning. Okay, so pruning, care, and tools. And this is a very broad subject, and I get calls all the time. One thing I do want to mention to you today during this talk is we will not be talking about pruning fruit trees. Okay, so pruning fruit trees is a whole different a game or a different game. So right now, what we're going to talk about today will be, we're going to talk about ornamentals and your landscape plants. Okay, so just at another venture, we'll talk about pruning fruit trees, but we're going to keep it to just our landscape plants right now. So again, I think Rachel's already taken care of this as far as we have a mute button and a stop video button. So I always put that in there just as a starter for everybody, just to kind of be aware of Zoom. If we can see you and hear you, but unfortunately, I think we've got that all set up where it's you won't have to worry about that. But please do type in your questions in the chat box, and we'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. So the pruning tools. So I say this very cautiously because everybody has a little bit different kind of pruning tool they like to use. If you're like me and you seem to lose tools sometimes, or your kids get your tools, or you put them in a truck or whatever, it's good to have a place to keep them all together. And again, when we get done with the presentation, I'm going to do a little show and tell and show you how I actually found a method to keep up with my tools. So most everybody probably has some form of these hand pruners. And again, your hand pruners, you can spend $100, $50, $10. So again, get a pair of hand pruners that fit your hand. And if you're going to maintain your landscape, you're going to need probably 2 or 3, maybe 4 of these type tools in your garden shed. Loppers. Again, here's a set of loppers here. And again, loppers come in various lengths, various sizes. And as we go through the presentation, again, we're going to really talk about what tool, the right tool for the right cut. And then we also have a tree saw. And there's a couple of folding saws here that you see in the picture. And then you can even go really expensive and get the gas or electric shears, which would be down here at the bottom. Again, I'm sure some of you have had these tools or don't have these tools. And one thing before I go any further is safety. We really want to talk about safety. These gas shears here you've got to be very careful with those. Those do not cut off usually unless your hands come off the button there. That the newer models have safety features, but just always be aware. And if you use the electric shears, be sure that you do not get the cord near them. And I'm not speaking from experience, okay? Just so we know that, okay? But there are a few definitions we want to go through today when we talk about pruning. And we're just gonna kind of go through the definitions real quick. We have first and foremost the node, and the node is just a growing point. All plants have nodes, most of them do, and then we have a branch collar. The branch collar is more on your trees, and that's just a swollen area at the branch base. And probably the best example I can give you just right off, because most of you probably are familiar with Crepe Myrtles. They have a really good branch collar that you can make your cut from if you're going to prune, if you need to do any pruning of those. Then you have a callus, which is scar tissue that's formed after you cut the tree or cut the limb. And basically, it seals over. Remember, trees do not heal, they seal. So they do a thing called compartmentalization, and they go around that initial cut. Next is suckering. That's just aggressive growth after shearing or heading cut. And some do it naturally. I know we had this discussion the other day, again, on Crepe Myrtles, because that's a very popular tree in Madison County. I'm actually live in Madison County, for those of you who live in Coleman County or North Alabama. And if you think about when you first put the crepe myrtle out, or they sucker for a while. And so that's just, you just have to go down there and trim those out. If you don't, then you're going to have more legs, if you want to call it that, or stems coming out of the ground. So most of the time you want to have like a 3 to 5 on those. And then you've got a thinning, which is just a cut made at the origin of growth. And again, we'll kind of show you some pictures of all of this here in just a second. Then we have some more definitions, and I'm sorry to bore you with definitions, but these are really good to know. We have dormancy, and currently we are coming out of dormancy, and that's just a season of slower plant growth. So most of all of your deciduous trees, we go through dormancy starting in the fall, and they lose leaves, and then they have bud break, which is the new growth that is stimulated by seasonal change and sometimes injury. So pollarding, which is just extreme pruning for a desired effect, and that is more probably used in just extreme landscapes. And the only time I've ever seen that really take place would be sometimes, said we weren't going to talk about fruit trees, but an apple tree you can do that way. And again, this is an extreme type of pruning, and most people don't do that. So, and then you've got a triple cut, which is just a method for cutting large branches. So if you notice, if you've ever cut a limb off a tree before, and let's say it was maybe just a little bit bigger, and it just it grabbed at the very bottom and just kind of ripped a piece of bark out, that's where the triple cut comes in. And then you've got the central leader, which is characteristic of most trees. You have a main branch going up and all the little branches on the side. So there are some reasons to prune. And first of all, really right plant, right place is the most important thing you want to look at more than anything. Before you put any kind of plant in your landscape, think about how big that plant's going to get 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. Do you want to be pruning all the time? Do you want to, is it shaded? Is it full sun? So always think about that first, and before you put the plant in. Sometimes we buy houses that already had these plants in. So again, that's just totally up to y'all. But the main reasons are to remove dead or dying plant parts and health. A lot of times plants, you may get a diseased limb. That's important. Go ahead. That's when you want to prune. It doesn't matter what time of year it is. Go ahead and get that out of there. You may want to stimulate new growth for flower or fruit. So again, this is what promotes the new growth. This is how we get them to kind of wake up sometimes. It creates a deep mass for a hedge. If you've ever noticed, we have a lot of Chinese privet still in landscapes, home landscapes. In fact, my parents' neighbor has Chinese privet around their fence, and it's been there for years, but it is a nightmare. He's out there pruning that, 2 or 3 times during the season. But again, I wish he would pull it up, but again, that's another story. So then you can do it for aesthetics and proportion. Sometimes you may have put a tree a little too close to the house, and you can keep it pruned to kind of maintain it. But again, we want to think about, before we put any plant in our landscape, right plant, right place. And then you want to control plant size. Maybe you have a limited area that you've planted that plant in. So the next slide we've got here is just plant growth. And we're just going to kind of talk about all of these. We're going to start at the top here. We're going to do the top left. Rubbing branches. Most of the time, again, Crape Myrtle is a real good example of rubbing branches. And we actually have a couple at the office in Madison County on Cook Avenue. And they've rubbed together so much, they've actually fused together. So we want to keep that from happening. And so if you see a branch or 2 limbs rubbing together on any of your trees, go in there and prune one of those out, and that will keep that from fusing together. Again, water sprouts. Water sprouts usually happen sometimes when a tree is under stress, or maybe the tip of the limb got broke off or whatever. And so you would want to prune out those water sprouts. If you've got a weak or narrow crotch, and the best example, again, I can give for this would be our Bradford Pear trees that are in crazy bloom right now. Again, this particular tree has become invasive in our state, and people just do not want to cut them down because they do have a very fabulous white color to them. They've got a beautiful bloom to them, and they're very showy in the spring. It's telling us, winter's about gone. So, but again, they have weak, narrow crotches. And when we have weak, narrow crotches, that creates an issue and makes it a weak point for that tree. And then closely spaced branches. Closely spaced, again, you want to maintain a little distance between each branch. And then every once in a while, you may have a branch stub at the bottom. Go ahead and take that off, because eventually it will just, it's unsightly, number one. And then sucker growth. So again, these are all really, this is just a good picture of some of the things we've been talking about. So hang on just a second, we'll let that person in. Okay, here we go. So the next thing we want to talk about when we're talking about pruning, my slides are not advancing. Let's see here. Hang on just a second. I don't know what happened. Well, there we go. All right. So there are some more with pruning techniques. So we want to talk about tip pruning or a heading cut. And basically on all your plants, you just have to look at the plant. You want to pick, let's say you've got a plant that is right by your sidewalk, and you want to look at the buds or look at the tip, where the next bud is. And if it's pointing out towards the sidewalk, you may not want it going out towards the sidewalk. You may want to go in. So look at which way those little those small buds are, and then that'll help determine or control the way that plant grows. Again, if you look at the middle, you can see where we clip those back. And if you look at the following picture, from those pruning cuts, you can see what it looks like once you made those tip pruning or the heading cuts. You control which way or how that branch or that next little limb is going to, what direction it's going to go in. And so bud break, this is another good picture. You don't want to cut so close to the bud, but you want to be just above it and make a good 45-degree cut so that water will not stand on there and it'll run off, okay? A few more techniques that we're going to talk about are thinning cuts, shearing cuts, and heading cuts. So again, most plants, if you put the right plant in the right place, then you should really never have to prune it. But pruning is sometimes our option, what we choose to do. And you want to control the plants too when they're growing. So a thinning cut is you're just going in and you're going to, if you look at this top left picture, you see how we went in and we took out a few of these and we thinned that plant out so it's not as full inside. We do this for disease control, to get air movement in there, maybe to get light in there so that those green leaves can grow better. Then also you can do shearing cuts, which are just random heading cuts. And, a lot of people, you would basically, if you're going to do your plant this way, you really want to make it wider at the bottom and smaller at the top so that the light can get all the way around that particular plant. And then last but not least would be a heading cut or tipping, or just the tips of the plant. And again, this would be where you go in and you can pick and choose, and plants have a way of, it's their way of kind of regenerating new growth when you do this kind of pruning. So you remember at the very beginning, we talked about the 3-cut pruning method again, and a branch collar. So we know the definitions. And so the branch collar is basically most trees have this little collar area, and you do not want to cut straight you do not want to make it just flush with the tree or the trunk, because you've just created a larger area that plant has to recover. So if you cut it at the branch collar and cut, a good 45-degree cut, then that helps that plant recover better and seal over that area. So if we were going to cut the 3-cut pruning method, we're going to take our little saw, or you can, if you're good with the chainsaw. I don't like people using chainsaws above their head, but some people are really good at it. So, but let's just say you're going to use your hand saw, and we're talking when you're going to cut a branch. Let's just say it's going to be something probably that you're not able to cut with your your regular pruners, okay, or your regular loppers. And again, we're going to, here in a little bit, we're going to do show and tell and show you some different types of equipment we're going to use. But you're going to make your first cut underneath about 1 to 2 feet. And then that way you're going to cut about halfway up. And then you're going to do your cut 2, just the other side of cut 1. And what that'll do is that'll cause that to break over and maybe be a little safer for you, so you're not gonna it's not gonna swing down and hit you. And then you can come back and make your 3rd cut. And Rachel, do we have any questions in the chat box or anything right now that we need to answer? Or
not yet. Everybody's been pretty quiet, so
okay,
please ask questions in the chat. I'm watching both the Facebook one and this one, and no questions yet.
Okay, all right, good deal. I just thought it'd be a good time to, if anybody has any questions. But again, the 3-cut method is a pruning method is a really good method to use on large limbs, or something that you cannot get your loppers around. Okay. So pruning techniques. Again, we've got pollarding or crepe myrtle. I don't know if I drive around the city of Huntsville, and I was just in Gunnersville yesterday and Fort Payne, and you'll come upon a commercial landscape where they've cut the crepe myrtles all the way back, and really that's really not good for them. But we'll talk about that here in a little bit. And it's funny. Some trees they do cut them back. So again, this would be the first time I ever saw this was when I was in San Francisco, and they had a park, and they did this to these trees, and they had been doing it to them for years. So again, it's just totally up to you. And but crepe myrtles are another. I've seen them prune just like the picture on the right. I've seen them, and you can see what will happen when they get really kind of weak in those areas where they're pruned. And if they had just left that alone and just gone in and just done some thin cuts, they would have been much better off. So anyway, it's totally up to people, when they come to that. And my apologies for the red marks on the screen. I'm not sure why those are on there, but crepe myrtles can recover from crepe myrtle, as we like to use that term, and we probably don't need it, or we'll just call it extreme pruning. So they can recover, and you can see this tree has it was cut back pretty far, but over time they will recover. But if you train your crepe myrtles early on, look how beautiful they can look. I mean, these are just gorgeous. And I will say, shout out to the University of Alabama. On their campus, they have some of the most beautiful crepe myrtles on their campus that they've not been extremely pruned, and they're just absolutely beautiful. So, and Auburn has some beautiful crepe myrtles too, but I have a child there, so gotta say that. So again, if May showers bring May flowers, then what would May flowers bring? And I hope you all say pilgrims. Exactly. So So pruning, the May rule. Let's see, my apologies. It decided to go fast there. So if it blooms before May, prune it after it flowers. So basically what that's saying is it blooms on what we call old wood. And you would really not want to do it no later than the 4th of July. And there are some exceptions to this rule. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. And if it blooms after May, you want to prune it before new growth. So, or new wood. And again, that just means that the growth begins in the spring. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit more. So there are some exceptions to this rule. And again, we're going to talk about this a little bit more. The exceptions to that, and my apologies about my slides going fast. I don't know what's going on. So exceptions to that would be like your French or the oak leaf hydrangeas, which is old wood. You would want to prune them after they bloom or no later than Labor Day. And then you've got new and improved cultivars called PG and smooth hydrangea that bloom on new wood. So you would want to prune those before the new growth or as it begins. So again, there's some exceptions to these rules, but for the most part, most of the plants in our landscape, you can go by this this little rule. So winter and spring flowers. Here's just a few examples of plants that have winter and spring flowers. So I know you're familiar with some of the magnolia hybrids. We've got the dogwood trees, again, fruit trees, many of your fruit trees. And again, we're not going to talk about pruning fruit trees because you prune those different than you will your landscape plants. So again, camellia, again, you're probably going to prune that early, and it really depends on what you're looking or what kind you've got. Azaleas and rhododendrons are another one that we really want to really want to know what we've got before we prune those. If you have a native azalea, you're going to prune that a little different than you will the other azaleas, the evergreen azaleas, I guess we could say. And then we've got some that are summer and fall flowers. So again, Crape Myrtle, you got your sourwood, sweet bay magnolia, camellia, again, hydrangeas. So you can see there are some exceptions to when and how you prune your summer and fall flowers. So again, another exception would be the type of rose you may have. So the best thing I can tell you is to check with your local extension agent, or if you know of a master gardener. And I know that everyone on here right now is familiar with Googling everything. I'm just amazed at how 20 years ago, if you told me I would be Googling anything, I would have laughed at you. But anyway, it's amazing. You know, you used to have to go to the library to look all this up. So again, evergreens and conifers, you're gonna kind of prune those a little different. You're gonna prune just before or just as new growth begins for best shape. And remember the bloom times. Some of your your evergreens do have flowers. I have the cherry laurels in my landscape, and they do bloom. So again, they bloom fairly early. So if I'm going to do any pruning, I will probably wait till after they bloom because they'll bloom before May. And so hemlock, your arborvitaes, cedar, yew, or juniper, a lot of times you really don't need to prune these unless you're just trying to keep some kind of shape to them. And again, boxwood. We'd had a great little tip on boxwoods earlier, on one of our extension videos. And we get these cold snaps coming in, and boxwood would be an exception you know, you've probably gotten some burn from the really cold weather we had. And I know the first thing you want to do is go out there and get that out of there. But that's a time when you would really want to wait and hold off on pruning that. Okay. But anyway, these are just some examples. So again, let's do it. Yes, ma'am.
Can I pause you a minute?
Yeah.
I do have a couple of questions in the chat about a couple of things you just said. One is, when is the best time to move native azaleas?
I would, if you're going to move them from your landscape, I would do it sometime in the winter time.
Are we too late now?
We're starting to bud out, and I mean, you could probably get away with it. But ideally if you're ever going to move anything that's in a dormant state, I would do it while it's dormant, preferably, probably in the middle of winter if you can, or, January, February. You probably be okay, depending on what part of the state you're in. But, just look at the plant and see if you've got some little buds coming out on it. You just got to remember that it puts a lot of stress on that plant if you move it in the spring. Ideally it's best to plant any of your landscape plants in the fall, or, early winter, late winter, because they have time to kind of get used to, what you've just done to them. So just think about that. It's really tough on plants sometimes, and it really has to do with how big that plant is also. If it's fairly young, it'd probably be okay. But if it's an old, big native azalea, it may, it's going to be probably pretty tough on it. I don't know. So.
Okay, one more question for you. Patricia is asking, on the winter spring plants listed, are those the ones that you pruned before May? The list you had of the winter and spring plants?
Let's see, I'm going to go back to the winter spring. Yeah. So just again, these, if they're spring flowers, I think this is what she's asking. If they bloom before May, you prune them, in the, oh boy, I'm getting myself confused now. No, but let's see, let me go back to, that slide where we had that.
Yeah, I like that phrase you had.
Yeah. Okay. So if it blooms before May, you're going to prune it after it flowers. So that would be, again, those plants in the winter and spring flowers. Okay. So you would want to prune them after they bloom. Okay. And then for summer and fall flowers, they're blooming after the, after May. So.
Okay.
So does that answer? I hope that answers it. I'm not sure. I'm so sorry.
No. So the ones, let's say for the winter spring plants listed, and you would wait till after they bloom.
After they bloom, and before May, after they bloom, if they bloom before May. Okay. So, all right.
And then if it's not, then let's say, for example, the holly, you would do it. When would you prune the holly? Like after, because it blooms early, right? So you would.
Yeah, I would on a holly. I would, early, spring, after a frost, after the. In every, in our area in North Alabama, April 15th is kind of the area or the time frame, or on average our last frost. But we have had frost after April 15th. And again, the one thing we have no control over, and today's is an example of that, is the weather. So just, you're going to have to play that by ear. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Sorry about that. I hope I didn't confuse anybody on that. So, but let's just review real quick. If it blooms on new wood, we're going to prune it in the winter and spring. And if it blooms on old wood, we're going to prune it in the summer and the fall, or after and soon after flowering is the key. So again, just kind of remember that when you're talking about pruning. So and here is my email. If any of you have any questions, or you know, you're more than welcome to contact me. I'll be happy to you know, get with you or find out the answer for you. And my apologies if I can't find it. We will find the answer for you. So, but I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to turn my video on. Are there any more questions so far, or are we good right now?
We're good right now.
Okay.
I'm sure there'll be some more. So y'all go ahead and put your questions in the chat.
Okay. All right. So one thing I wanted to show y'all, and I'm not supposed to, you know, say use this book. This is called a Easy Gardening. I'm sorry, I've got my screen. It's but this Harvey Cotton with the Huntsville Botanical Gardens wrote this book. This is a great reference to have. You can order it through Amazon, or it's like $29.95, where this is what this book costs. But you can get it at the Huntsville Botanical Gardens also. This is a really good, it's got some excellent, it covers everything as far as particular kinds of hydrangeas you may have, roses. It's just a really good desk reference to have. So I highly recommend this book if you need something else to read during this time. So I'm gonna slide back here. I'm gonna show you, and I may have to let me. I've got my screen, my video settings. Let me see here. Just 1 second. Let me. I'm gonna.
Okay, I've got another question for you too, Rhonda. Bob is asking, pruning. Oh, this is a good question. I have some of this too. Pruning bridal wreath spirea. Do you prune it after it blooms? Because it's blooming right now.
I think you would prune it after it blooms, and then you would want to do that, you know, after, you know, so you don't want to go in there and prune it. Again, frost is our issue, and that's what everybody wants to do with their boxwoods, is they want to go in there and start pruning those, and you need to hold up on that if you can. So, but this is my handy dandy little tool bag. I'm not trying to say you've got to go out and buy one, but what I like about this is I have all my pruning tools in this bag. And I'm going to, what I'm going to do is, it's got a little cover here. It's got a strap. You can put it on your back and carry it out in your yard. And you'll be amazed at the stuff you can get in this bag. I actually bought this through, I bought it online. And so just, you know, a 5-gallon bucket's good. Just some place to keep all your tools. But I'm going to show you, you're going to be amazed at the stuff that I'm getting ready to pull out of this bag, because it's going to be a lot. Okay. So, because I like to talk about, I love garden tools, and my garden tools, I don't have like a lot of fancy clothes or anything tool, but I love this little garden. It's called a soil knife. It's got a serrated edge on it, and it actually has the inches and stuff on it. I love this because I have some laripe or monkey grass. I've got a fescue lawn, and every once in a while I'll get a few of those out in the yard, and there's just not anything I can do to spray it. But this little knife works perfect getting it out of the ground. So, and it's got a little handy dandy container to put it in. Another cool little pruning tool that I keep in my little bag. Again, this has got a serrated edge on it. And again, this is good for cutting back any old, maybe you're trying to, like your peonies, or I call them peonies, you know, you can get it and cut them back. So this is a good little tool. We talked about loppers, and I've got 3 different size loppers in this particular little bag. And first of all, I'm gonna show you the smallest size ones. And and all of these are Fiskars, but that doesn't mean you've got to buy Fiskars. Okay. So buy whatever you like and whatever fits your hands good. But these come in handy when you're trying to make a cut, maybe, and you've got other limbs. And this one makes it real easy to get into. Now, about the largest size that I would want to cut with this would be maybe a 1/2 inch limb or stick or whatever, or, branch. So again, and the one thing I like about these, if you can see in the video, it basically has this gear driven. And what I like about it is you really don't have to use a lot of muscle power to make this one work. So this is one set of loppers, and you can't have too many pairs of loppers, okay? Because they all come, I use all 3 of them when I'm using them. Then here's a little bit longer pair. And again, these are just perfect. And again, if you look at the size opening, and you don't want to, I don't want to try to cut a 2-inch branch with this. Okay. I may want to go up to maybe 3/4 with this to really, get it cut good. So, and the other thing is too, there's actually a sharp side and a flat side. You really want to try, if you can, you want to cut on the smoother side if you can, but we don't always have that option. We're trying to get in there to get them cut. And then I've got the big daddies. And again, I like these because again, they have this really cool opening, or this gear right here. So again, you can cut a much bigger branch with that. And so you could probably go up to maybe 1 inch with this one. Maybe, a little bit larger, but not too much larger. But again, you see the action of that, how it pulls down. And again, all of these tools I'm taking out are in my little tool bag. Making noise here. Again, everybody can use a little axe. And sometimes, I don't know what good these really are in pruning, other than you may have a little stump you're trying to get out of the ground. But it's popular now to go axe throwing. So, you may want to take your own little axe to the axe thrower. I don't know. So let's see what else we got in here. Okay. All right. So here's a, we're talking about pruning. These are a pair of Fiskars, and not Fiskars. These are Felco. And I don't particularly like these because they don't fit my hand good. And so they're a longer, these are more for somebody that's got bigger hands. And so I don't use these very often because they just don't fit my hand very well. So I do have a smaller pair of Felco, and again, had these for many years. And again, you're going to pay probably $50 or so. But if you lose, I've kind of misplaced these a few times, and I thought I lost them. But again, they fit my hand. Get something that's comfortable in your hand, okay? And again, if it's okay to use a pair of $9 or $1, whatever, you use what works for you. I've got some that I did not pay a lot of money for, that I've had for a long time. So again, I've got to have a couple pairs of those. So, and then I've got a little saw here. Let me get that out. Just a little folding saw. And what I like about this one is it's got this little lock. And so it locks it, so it's not going to fold over and hit my hands. I do have another pair that's got a little nut that you tighten. And I have, I've been in the sawing and that thing folded on me. So just, there are several different brands out there. And again, this one, what I like about this, it cuts on the pull. Okay. So when you're cutting, you're cutting when you're pulling it back. I like this one because again, it folds over, and you can put this in your back pocket. And again, I keep it in the front of my little bag here. So, and all this stuff came out of this bag. Okay. And then I think I've got another pair of little loppers in the front here. Okay. These, I like these because these are a folding pair, and you can kind of see, again, they're a little smaller, and these are good for if you're just out in the field and you know, you want to do a little bit of pruning. But again, all of those tools I just pulled out of this bag. And so, and this is it's called an easy cut is what it's called, the bag, the name of the bag. But you don't have to go buy one of these. But I really like it, again, because I can put it in my wheelbarrow, I can take it out, and it keeps all my tools together. But a bucket will work, and you know, anything like that will help. But I hope I've answered most of your questions. Do we have any more questions?
We do. We have
Rachel?
a few more. We have one about tools, Rhonda.
Okay.
Someone asked about how to sharpen those tools.
Okay. Okay. My suggestion on that is if you've never sharpened anything, take them to a knife shop and let somebody sharpen them. Now, the neat thing about these Felco pruners is you don't have to worry about sharpening. You can buy a replacement blade. So you can buy a replacement blade to put on it. And, you know, so you can take the other one and trim it. So the main thing people get in trouble with, and it's kind of like a pocket knife, it's got a flat side and it's got a beveled side. So you've got to be real careful. You know, if you don't know what you're doing, again, you can mess them up. So if you don't know what you're doing, don't try to sharpen them. Take them somewhere. There are businesses out there and landscapers, garden centers that can probably help you on that. Okay, but you can buy on the Felco brand. You can buy a replacement blade on them. So what else we got?
Okay, when and how should I prune a Japanese maple? The previous homeowner pruned it for shape, and it is full of nodes and is kind of a mess. Can I cut all that off and let it recover?
Okay, Japanese maples are there. That's a tough question because there are many different varieties or cultivars out there. And most of the time, Japanese maples, they really don't like to be pruned. If that makes any sense, they prefer to grow naturally or have that weeping look to them. And it just really depends on what type you've got. What I would suggest doing, you're more than happy. I'll be more than happy for you to email me a picture of it or text a picture to me, and we can take a look at it and maybe make some suggestions to it. Or maybe there's a master gardener in the area that can assist you. So I don't know if I answered your question or not. That's a toughie. So and that's another thing. Sometimes it's a plant by plant basis, if that makes any sense, because you may have sometimes a plant will have a disease on it, and what will happen is once it has the disease, there's really not anything maybe you can do to it. And sometimes you just have to either remove that from your landscape or, you know, just cut it down. And a lot of people don't like to do that. So just keep that in mind.
Very good. I shared your email in the
look
chat.
At the chat box too, I guess.
Yeah, if anybody didn't get your email,
right.
I put that email address in there. And Bob was suggesting that Corona makes a great sharpener. And
all right.
We had a few people who agreed with you.
I do have a little sharpening toolkit here. Yeah. But again, if you don't know what you're doing, and a good file on some of them, but if you don't know what you're doing, just don't do it. and sometimes, the loppers nowadays, you can buy a pair of loppers, for under $20 sometimes. And it might be a thing where you might want to just buy a new pair. So, but that's up to you. But I like to hang on to mine as long as I can. So.
Very good.
It's a whole hour, Rachel. So.
I know, you've done it. You were afraid you weren't going to be able to do
else?
it. Any other questions? I'll show you my picture.
Well, I was, yeah.
Can I share my picture of my big camellia out front to get your suggestions
Oh
of what
yeah,
to
sure,
do?
absolutely.
Okay, I think,
Yeah.
let me share my screen with you. And I was asking Rhonda, I have a big old camellia that we inherited in this home, and it bloomed really well this year. So now the question is, what do I do with it? Because it's close to the house. It's all the things you were saying. Can you see that?
Not yet. Let's see.
Oh, you do?
Oh, okay. Yes.
You see
Okay.
it?
Oh, wow. That is gorgeous.
Yeah,
Holy
before the rain, it really was.
what I would do is I would probably just, oh, wow. That is beautiful. I saw one yesterday in Gunnersville at a church, and it was just, just gorgeous, just so pretty. And, but on that, I would probably, you know, again, camellias are one of those, you got to be careful with. But looking at that, I can see what you're talking about, and just keep it from rubbing on the house. And you would go in and do some select cuts and prune back, just probably to another node. I don't know, because most of the time camellia, we like them to just kind of grow naturally like that. So, and when this one was probably planted, they didn't think that it was going to get up to the eve of your house, it looks like. So
Right.
again, I would probably, is it touching your house or?
It's not quite, because I've done some pruning on it, so
Okay.
quite.
But again, they're slow growers, so that's a tough one right there, as far as, because you really want the natural shape. But again, it's okay to prune, to control it, to keep it off the house and that type of stuff. So, and that one looks fairly healthy too. So that is gorgeous.
I'll show, let's see if I can get to the next one.
Okay.
Do you get the forsythia? Can you see?
We don't see the forsythia yet. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah. That one's kind of going crazy there. Now, again, forsythia is one of those, I know that number one, I always like to use this as an example anyway, because this is telling you when these things are in bloom, you better get your pre-emerge down in your yard. Okay. They just this is always a good indicator of pre-emerge. And if you wait till after they've done blooming or they've finished blooming, then you're really too late for your pre-emerge. And I know we're not talking about lawns today, but this is just a good example. But this particular plant, you can, once all of its blooms come off, you can go in there and really, you can get mad at that thing and cut it down, and it'll come back out. So that's one of those exceptions there to the rule as far as growing. But they're very prolific, but they're beautiful spring plant, and it just tells you that, hey, spring's here and tornado season's here. I shouldn't have said that, but anyway, but that is pretty. Yeah, that's bright. So
yeah, that's what I think.
Any
It's
other questions?
Better sunshine than I'll mind you.
Yeah.
Let's see. That's all the questions. Nobody else has said anymore. We had about 27 people between our Facebook and our Zoom, and we will upload this recording to our North Alabama Agriplex YouTube channel. And we also have our ornamental class, our fruit pruning class from last month. It's up there as well. We have seed starting, we have a raised bed gardening, growing succulents. We have a bunch of different classes on there if anybody wants to check out that YouTube channel. So thank you so much, Rhonda. I appreciate you coming on here and telling us about pruning. I think it's a really good time of year for it. And I put your email on there, so you might be getting some more specific questions. All right.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. I really enjoyed this, and just stay weather aware today, everyone. And it's good to see all of you.
Very good. And we will look forward to having you teaching us about rain barrels this fall at the Agriplex. So come back and see Rhonda. And then next month, April 21st, we will be celebrating Earth Day outdoors under the pavilion with Dr. Bill Deutsch doing the Rivers of Alabama. So Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for coming. And I had a question about where the videos are. They are on the North Alabama Agriplex YouTube channel, and I will share that with you guys so you can see it. If you just Google North Alabama Agriplex YouTube channel, you can get there, but I will send you the link in the chat right now too, because there's some good ones. Loretta Gillespie did one on succulents that's really good. And we have, well, I'm working on copying this. Hold on. Let's see. We have the pruning fruit trees. We have some of our videos from our local school gardens too on there. Control C. Okay. Try to paste that so you can get it. Okay, I think that worked. So you can just Google North Alabama Agriplex YouTube, or that is the direct link to our YouTube videos. Anybody else have any questions? And go ahead and stop our Facebook. Thanks y'all for joining us on Facebook. Stop our recording.